And we're back.
Yes, we are. That's what we do. We leave and come back for bathroom breaks.
Exactly. Between each segment, we are in the bathroom.
Hydrate, people. Hydrate. Real quick on that note, yeah, you and I both bought these huge jugs, drinking like 140 ounces of water a day.
We did. We did to monitor our daily intake.
Yes. Gotta hydrate. Gotta hydrate.
I'm so tongue twisted today. So we are going to talk about something that we have been dealing with this past week. It has to do with musicians, independent artists, and finding ways to protect yourself in the music industry. So recently, we've been working with a bunch of different art producers and mixing engineers and just different creatives.
We're growing our team of individuals that we work with for sure.
Yes, and something that we noticed this past week was we were trying to find ways to make sure that we were doing everything that would protect ourselves in the long run of being an independent artist. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on right now recently with major label artists like Taylor Swift, for example, with her masters. Now I think Kanye West wants to purchase his masters. Let's
backtrack because some people may not actually know what a master is. So there's different portions of ownership that individuals get when they write a song. So there's the songwriting, the actual lyrics part of it, and then there's the production, and then there's everything that goes into the actual sound recording. So when you're referring to the masters, you're referring to the actual sound recordings of the culmination of the songwriting mixed with the production that become one. But in the past, under major labels, because a lot of those budgets were specifically set up for the artist didn't necessarily pay out of pocket for the producer or for the studios, and the studios cost a lot of money. You're talking, hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars for certain albums to be completed.
The point is you were trying to explain what a master is and why it's important to protect yourself, because you were saying that labels have a lot of ownership because they were putting a lot of money into an artist and helping to grow them, right? Now, as an independent artist, you don't have someone funding, so everything's under your umbrella, right?
Yeah.
Everything, you have to make sure that whenever you're working with someone, you have to protect yourself. And recently we were trying to do that just to make sure that, we had certain contracts in place to make sure that we always own the rights to our songs and, just so that you don't have any hiccups later on down the road. And we started doing a lot of research on Google and YouTube. And the interesting thing is I thought it was going to be the easiest thing in the world to be able to just look up what do you need to do, and just the different verbiage of being in the music industry. I've been in this industry, I've read books on it, and I'm still not as educated as I want to be. And so we started to take that step this week, and we found that there's such limited resources, and we could be wrong, so correct us if we're wrong, but we had a tough time finding a website or finding a video that helped simplify it for the independent artist. Agreed.
So ultimately, people, they don't want to make it easy because there's a lot of jobs that are riding on that whole concept of from lawyers to A&Rs, all the stuff that created the machine of the music industry. So in many ways, they still have this barrier of entry. So what we're going to do, and part of the podcast goal is to open up the accessibility for the whole DIY approach. So
because we're DIY. So.
Absolutely. And so if you guys have any thoughts or ideas on how to be able to take your music career to the next level, definitely put that in the comments section. Talk about any resources that you found, if it's any websites, if it's
how to copyright your music, how to work with a producer or an engineer or a vocalist or a guitarist. How can you best protect yourself as well as be fair and compensate all the people that are helping bring your art to life in the fairest way possible, so that you can continue to make music in an affordable way.
Absolutely. Collaboration is a big part of that. And especially for DIY, it's important that people are building each other up. And in the current landscape, there's this whole dog-eat-dog mindset that we see, especially out in Los Angeles, where people feel like if they help you out, it's going to hurt their career in some way. So we're all about that whole win-win collaboration type of dynamic and building people up instead of breaking them down. So if you guys have any ideas on how to build people up through resources that you can give us, we will share that on the next podcast.
Exactly. We would love to share that with you when, we're going to do our own research, and we're going to share a couple of links and templates and things that we found super useful in this past week, because we've just started really diving into like the nuances of all parts of the business side of the music industry.
Yeah, I like it.
Right. I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about Beyonce and Jay-Z, the Queen and the King.
There you go.
We just watched their YouTube video that they just dropped. I was wondering what your thoughts were. You didn't really get to see it full on. You were cooking when I was trying to show it to you. But I couldn't really let a podcast episode go by without talking about how amazing those two are and what we can kind of learn from them.
Well, two main takeaways is I see how from a culture standpoint, they're definitely becoming more and more of a staple in hip hop culture and R&B culture. I mean, I don't know, is Beyonce pop, R&B, hip hop?
Let's leave it up to them to. I would say she's everything, but I think she started off. Oh, I wouldn't actually even know. I would say R&B, pop R&B. I'm not. You guys let us know what you think her genre is, but I think that woman just does it all. She's like the definition of crossover.
Yeah, but what I loved is there were a lot of like African themes, and naturally you being from South Africa,
I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful tribute to just the beauty of their background, and that's something that needs to be to the forefront. But also just like excellence and royalty and the creative direction that they took was incredible. But I love the fact that they've got a family. So they have this balance, like we talked about earlier, but they also shot a lot of the footage in different places that were still within the scope of like the pandemic. So ultimately they were able to still get content. So it's what's within your control. How can you get as creative as possible? And some of those visuals were through the roof. So I definitely love to dive in to see who actually made that body of work possible, because the 7.5 minute video you sent me was ridiculous.
It's like a mini movie when watching Beyonce and Jay-Z just drop their creativity. But one thing I really love about what Beyonce and Jay-Z have been doing, back in the day with rock music always spoke about the changings of times, right? It always spoke about what was going on in the world, and it always had like a message. It always had a commentary on something that was going on that was much bigger than what those artists were necessarily going through themselves.
Yeah.
And rock music I've always loved that lyrically, and I've always tried to incorporate my lyrics to talk about other things, not just my love and my relationships, also to talk about the changings of these times. And especially right now, there's a lot of creativity flowing because there's a lot of sadness. And when there's a lot of sadness, there's a lot of need for expression. And with Beyonce and Jay-Z, I feel like they put so much thought into what message they're trying to send, and what and inclusivity and just changing with the times. They're really narrating a lot of what's going on right now in a really, really beautiful, tasteful, creative way, and I really appreciate that.
But they also do it in a way that makes you want to dance, makes you want to move.
It feels powerful as well. It feels empowering.
It does. And then even the choice, I think that Childish Gambino on that record, which if you look at his catalog of work is crazy. Like he's doing comedy and acting, and his music has a very deep message. So even the choice of collaborations they do is incredible. It's definitely, it's almost like picking out art to a degree. All right, so we're going to pick a card and talk a little bit about relationships.
All right.
What is your favorite thing I ever did for a special occasion for you?
Oh, the first thing that popped into my mind was us moving in.
Okay, that was a thing?
There's so many.
That was a thing.
There were so many that you've done, but this one popped into my head immediately when you said that. And you did kind of like a scavenger hunt for key swap. So we kind of, was it for the key swap or was it for moving in? Oh, it was switching keys, actually. It was like, hey, here's a key to my apartment. And I think that's what it was. It was. And he had a whole scavenger hunt. I came into the apartment and there was like clues, and there was a cake, and underneath the box it was like, look under the box. It was kind of like a mystery. I had to like lift up, and then I had to go pop balloons, which I'm very afraid of, but I had to pop balloons. Confetti came out, and then eventually I finally found the key inside one of the cupcakes, which was so much fun.
I think that was the move-in one, right? Wasn't that
was it the move-in, or was it the
Will You Move In With Me?
Is that what it was?
It was one of the two.
It was one of the two. I'm going to go read my journal right after this podcast. Either way, it was one of my favorite things. So I'm going to ask you the same question.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing I ever did for a special occasion for you?
So I was out in Utah, and I was doing some work out that way, and
I'm nervous. I hope I've done a good job.
did a great job. So I actually was in the bathroom when this whole moment was created, and I saw a sticker, and then it created an inspired thought, and like the sticker said, "You are beautiful," right? So fast forward, I shared with you the inspired thought, and then we talked about love languages, and that led into the whole concept of like how we can nurture our relationship, and you ultimately created love stations. So based on the love languages.
I was like, where is he going with this? I don't remember anything.
So you created love stations.
Oh,
and
right.
Once I
when
walked
you were traveling, you came back.
Yes. So I came back, and you had pre-prepared all of these different love stations for me to experience the different types of love. So like there was one with words, one with acts of service, one with quality time. So you essentially went through the whole process, but it was a very well thought out process. And it was also a tribute to what ultimately turned into Love Letter, Love Better, which is coming out probably early next year.
Right. I forgot. And then like one love station was acts of service, or the house was super clean, or they're just cute little things. But wow, I'm really relieved. I was like, I hope I've been upping my game recently with special occasions. Mental note to self to always outdo myself the next time.
In case of
random questions on a podcast, asking you and calling you out. I hope this is a reminder to any of you who might find yourself in a similar situation on a podcast and randomly being asked that question.
If in doubt, rehearse it. Don't do it on the fly.
Right. And if you have any special occasions, something that you've done for a significant other or a friend or a loved one, let us know below. We would love to read those out in the next podcast.
And if you have anything creative that you think that we should do for each other or for somebody in our circle, I would love to have some suggestions.
Ooh, I would love some suggestions. Yeah. Anything that you think of that's creative, we would love to try it.
There's nothing worse than like when you get to that like 2-week, 3-week window of like somebody's birthday or a special day, and you're just like drawing a blank and you're trying to figure it out.
I think that's me at every occasion. Whenever I'll think of great ideas throughout the year, and the minute it's somebody's special occasion, I cannot remember or think of anything creative. He is, not to get too off topic, we're going to wrap this up, but he is so good at gift giving, and it's not even anywhere near on his love language list for receiving or giving, but he just thinks of the most creative, thoughtful gifts. He outdoes me every time. Every time I think I'm going to do it, he outdoes me.
If in doubt, Etsy. Etsy is like the go-to because you're essentially getting all of the creativity of the other artists, and from like a creative person to another.
Helping small businesses.
Exactly. So if in doubt, go on Etsy, search by a category that obviously works for the individual. Like I did one specifically for music for you, and then another. And then another.
Incredible. We can even talk about that in one of our segments with all the gifts that you've done, because they are amazing.